Mr. President, I want to talk a few minutes today about elementary and secondary education, more specifically about school choice. School choice is inextricably related, in my opinion, to social justice. Put another way, I just don't understand how one can be a fair-minded person and believe in social justice but not support school choice. In Congress, of course, we seem to face a new crisis every week, Mr. President. And while we need to respond to them, I think it's important that we not lose sight of what I call the foundational issues that ensure that our country is free and democratic and aspirational and prosperous for our children and our grandchildren. And one of those issues, one of those foundational issues, is education. Now, right now, the American people are focused on the border, which is an open, bleeding wound. They're focused on inflation. They're focused on crime. They're focused on turmoil abroad. I don't blame them. We need to be focused on those things. But while we focus on those things, it is a fact that the quality of our students' elementary and secondary education has been steadily slipping. Steadily slipping. And it is clarion clear, unless you have been living in your parents' basement, it is clarion clear that the status quo of education in America isn't setting our kids or our country up for success. I take no joy in saying that. But sometimes you can't look reality in the eye and deny it. You have to admit it. Here are a few examples of how American and Louisiana's pre-K to 12 students are falling behind. The numbers are the numbers. Math and reading scores among American 13-year-olds are at their lowest level in decades. That's not my opinion. That's according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress. As you know, Mr. President, that's a study done annually known as the Nation's Report Card. In the Nation's Report Card, just 35% of American fourth graders, 35% are proficient in math. Only 32% of American fourth graders are proficient in reading. American students are slipping globally as well. In 2008, the IMD World Competitiveness Center ranked American students first in the world. By 2023, the United States had slipped to 10th overall. In science, American students ranked 11th. In math, American students ranked 30th. In Louisiana, I regret to say, Mr. President, that roughly half of my students in Louisiana in grades K through 3 are not reading at the grade level. Half. Only 1/3 of my kids in grades 3 through 12 are at grade level in the 4 subjects that the Louisiana Educational Assessment Program, we call it LEAP, tests. In fact, we have in Louisiana 24 school systems, 24, in which fewer than a quarter of our students, fewer than a quarter, have proficient LEAP exam scores. Now, I've said this before on the Senate floor. I'm going to say it again. The American people can do extraordinary things. We can unravel the human genome. We can take a diseased human heart and replace it with a new one and make it beat. We can send a person to the moon. But we can't seem to figure out how to teach our children how to read and how to write and how to do math when we have 18 years to do it. And there's no excuse, because all children can learn. Now, I know it's complicated, and there are a multitude of reasons why our children may be struggling. It is much, much harder today to be a teacher than when I was in a public school. And it is also much, much harder today to be a kid. And the evidence is also clear now that closing schools during the pandemic made matters a lot worse. We in America made a mistake. Some states did better than others, but most of them got it wrong. But you know, we can't keep blaming things on the pandemic. It's been a few years since our schools reopened, and our scores are nowhere near where they need to be. The truth is that pre-K to 12 education in America and in Louisiana was in trouble well before the pandemic, and we all know that. Yet leaders in many states remain hesitant, to say the least, to change anything about our public school system. Now, we've all heard the famous definition of insanity. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting to get a different result. It's a cliche. But cliches become cliches because they're true. We need to follow the law of holes. When you're in one, stop digging. When you're in one, stop digging. We need to stop making excuses about pre-K to 12 education. And we need to stop doing things that don't work and then doing them again. You can't expect to fix a broken status quo, to magically fix it, and to magically fix our broken schools and equip struggling students if you keep doing the same thing. And the fact is, the unhappy fact, the miserable fact, is that too many of our schools in America and in Louisiana are failure factories. They're failure factories where violence is common and learning is rare. But there are a few states. There are a few states that are bucking the status quo. And they're doing it in part by adopting school choice programs. And so far, they've seen a lot of success. Now, school choice programs, school choice, I realize it's a broad term, school choice programs can take many different shapes. But they all boil down to one thing, one foundational principle. Parents should be allowed to take their kids out of failing schools. Parents should be allowed to take their children out of failing schools and put them in schools that can help those children thrive and certainly do better. It's not complicated. You know, American parents today, they can go to the grocery store and they can choose from 40 different, maybe more, but certainly 40 different breakfast cereals to feed their child in the morning. But in many states, those parents have absolutely no control over which school their child can attend. Children are stuck in schools, too many assigned to them by their parents' zip code. And there's little that most parents, too many parents, can do to change that, even though it is patently absurd to force children to attend failing schools when parents could enroll those kids and invest the money that pays for their education in better schools. And that's where school choice comes in. Now, in practice, schools they implement school choice by tweaking how they fund school systems. For those of you who are unfamiliar with school funding schemes, most public schools have three main sources of funding: federal dollars, state dollars, and local dollars. The exact breakdown of that money varies by state and by school system. But in Louisiana, for example, the average school district gets about 11% of its money from federal funding, 44% of its money from the state, and another 45% from local government. So 11, 44, and 45. Local dollars typically stay with the school system in a particular town or parish. We call our counties parishes. But public officials in Louisiana have the right and the ability to allocate those state and federal dollars the way they want to. When states adopt school choice policies, here's how it works. Parents typically get to decide which school will receive their child's share of state and federal funding. The local dollars stay local, but parents can redirect the federal and the state money. And there are two ways in which states that implement school choice allocate that money, that reallocate that money, the federal and the state dollars. The first is education savings accounts, and the second, you've heard of it, vouchers. Education savings accounts are government-funded savings accounts that take all or a portion of the federal and state dollars allocated to each student and give it to parents to use it for their kids' education. Parents can use the money a multitude of ways. They can use the money to pay for tutors, to purchase textbooks for homeschooling. Parents can use the state and federal money to subsidize private school tuition. If a student and a parent have money left over when the student graduates from high school, that student can even use the funding to help pay for college. It's called an education savings account. Other states use a voucher system. Under a voucher system, parents typically do not receive money directly. Instead, they get to choose. They tell the school system which school their child's going to go to and tell the school system to send the federal and state money to that school. So the money follows the children. The parents can take that voucher to a traditional public school. The parents can take that voucher to a private school to pay private school tuition. The parents can take that voucher to enroll their kids in a charter school if they would like. Charter schools, as you know, Mr. President, are tuition-free, publicly funded schools that operate independently of the state. And rather than taking marching orders from the government, charter schools are able to design their own curriculum and their own standards to help meet the needs of each student. So, whether it's through vouchers or education savings accounts, states that have embraced school choice have steadily climbed the ranks as the best states in this country for elementary and secondary education. And that's just a fact. Look it up. In Florida, take Florida for example. Florida's had school choice for a long time, decades. It's not mandatory, but it's an option. And a lot of parents love that option, and they use it. Graduation rates in Florida have steadily increased year after year after year. Florida's fourth graders rank third in the country in reading, They ranked 4th in the country in math, according to the nation's report card. Other pro-choice or pro-school choice states, including Iowa, North Dakota, Utah, I mentioned a few, have all landed in the top 10 states on the nation's report card. School choice works. Now, even states that have traditionally struggled with respect to education are seeing improvements. Take Louisiana's neighbor, Mississippi. Mississippi overhauled its pre-K to 12 system in 2013 to help parents get their kids out of failing schools. The state implemented a voucher program for kids with dyslexia and low-income students to ensure that parents could find a successful school that would meet their children's needs. Mississippi also implemented a law requiring schools to hold back students who cannot read at grade level in the 3rd grade and give them additional instruction. In other words, if you're in the 3rd grade and after several chances you can't read at grade level, you're not socially promoted to grade 4. You're kept in the 3rd grade until you can read, because kids drop out of high school in the 3rd and 4th grade. If they can't read, they've got no chance. Since Mississippi did all this in 2013, Mississippi has jumped from 50th in education to 35th. In 2023, student achievement levels reached an all-time high in Mississippi. Graduation rates climbed from 75% in 2011 to 87% by 2020, well above the national average. And Mississippi managed all of this growth while spending less money per student than all but 4 states. It's not just money. It's how you spend it. Now, this year, we're doing better in Louisiana. This year, Louisiana followed the lead of Mississippi, and we passed a law called HB 12. I've talked about it on the floor, to ensure that all 3rd grade students can read at grade level before they can move on to the 4th grade. And fortunately, and I thank him for doing it, Governor John Bel Edwards did not veto the bill. I was afraid he would. He signed it into law, and I want to thank him for that. But when it comes to school choice, Governor Edwards has opposed it at every turn. Every turn. He blocked 2 bills last year that would have established voucher programs for my kids in Louisiana. If those 2 bills had passed, parents of students with special needs or students who could not read at grade level by the 3rd grade could have taken their state money, the state-funded education dollars, not the local, the state dollars, to a different school that could better address those children's needs. But the governor opposed the bills, and they didn't make it. And those bills would have provided a lifeline to parents who were desperate and still are desperate to help their children succeed in school. But Governor Edwards opposed. He opposed allowing these parents to find better alternatives for their children. Now, the good news is Louisiana is about to have a new governor. And the good news is that Louisiana is about to have a brand new legislature. And I can't speak for our new governor, but I know our legislators. I supported many of them. We made some wholesale changes. And I hope my friends in the Louisiana legislature are anxious and eager and enthusiastic about giving parents, finally, the power to remove their children from failing schools. Parents overwhelmingly support school choice. In Louisiana, 75% of parents with school-age kids support school choice. Nationwide, that number has gone from 64% in 2019 to 71% today. So, you're asking yourself, who can oppose school choice? Many, not all, but many teachers' unions, and many, not all, of the administrators in failing schools. The adults, not the kids, the adults. Our schools are supposed to be about our kids, not the adults. Many, not all, but many of our teachers' unions worry that giving parents the choice to pick a different school will result in more students attending non-union schools such as charter schools. Many, not all, many administrators in failing schools hate the idea that they will need to compete with other local schools to attract kids and earn the state and federal dollars that follow those kids. It's called competition. And as I'm sure you've noticed, both of these fears that I just referenced, for some, not all, of our teachers' unions and our administrators, focus is on what's best for them and the school system and the adults, not for what's best for the parents or the kids. Competition makes everybody better. Competition makes everybody better, and that is true of our schools too. The United States has a highly competitive higher education system. And in return, our universities are the best in the world. They are. I've been to a school in another country. It was a good school. But as a group, American universities are the best in all of human history. Now, they have some problems, as we all know about, but they're still the best in the world. And there's a reason that most wealthy and well-connected people around the world want to send their children to an American campus to get their degrees. The excellence of American university is driven by the fact that students can choose to go elsewhere if the university stops delivering a quality education. The students and their parents can vote with their feet. It's called choice. It's about as American as you can get. And that same competition, that same choice will help restore K through 12 schools to excellence as well. Mr. President, Americans don't need to watch the status quo fail their children. They don't. States throughout this country are empowering parents to take control of their kids' education, and the whole country stands to benefit from their leadership. When it comes to education now, I'm an all-of-the-above guy. I don't care if it's public schools, charter schools, private schools, vouchers, savings accounts, or pixie dust. If it'll help our kids learn better, I'm for it. I don't care who gets mad. And that's why I'm very optimistic about the leadership changes in Louisiana and the good news it could mean for our elementary and secondary education and for our parents and our children. I'm not saying the school choice alone is the silver bullet. We have other problems in Louisiana. We need to expand access to education programs for at-risk children from early age to age 4. We need to do a better job there. We've got a shortage of qualified teachers. We need to find out which of our teachers can teach and pay them, like the professionals they are. Find out which of our teachers can't teach and either teach them how or tell them to find a new line of work. We've got too much truancy among our kids. 40% of our K through 8 schools grade A or B, but somehow magically 70% of our high schools are graded A or B. We know that's not right. We've watered down our standards. So we have college costs for our kids and our parents have doubled in the last decade. So we have other problems. But school choice will help. And I believe, as much as I'm standing here, that America's future and Louisiana's future can be better than our present, and it can be better than our past. But not if we don't improve our schools. And no one is coming to save our schools in Louisiana but ourselves. And with new leadership and school choice on the horizon, the future of elementary and secondary education in Louisiana can be and is to me promising. So I end as I began, Mr. President. No fair-minded person, in my opinion, can say he or she supports social justice if they don't support school choice. I neglected to mention, Mr. President, with me today are two of my colleagues from my office, Ms. Maddie Dibble and Mr. Christian Lamy. I wanted to recognize them. I suggest, Mr. President, I thank you for your time and attention, and I suggest the absence of a quorum.